Last week, in one quiet evening at the Hambu Dojo, there was a summer storm raining outside, and during the break, Hatsumi Sensei painted this scroll for me. The scroll reads, Muto Dori. So when he was painting the Bu character for me, there was a loud thunderclap that shook the whole Hambu, and everybody that was chatting and waiting for their turn to get artwork quieted down and kind of stared at this character as he painted it. Hatsumi Sensei himself didn't skip a beat, but it's Muto Buto Nari. Hello, my name is Michael Glenn, and in this episode of the Dojo Show, we're going to explore the feeling behind this scroll and how it applies to this year's Part of the theme for this year is Muto Dori. Sensei, when I was in Japan last week, he spoke about 3 different themes for this year. There's Muto Dori, there's fujin no goshinjutsu, which is like kunoichi techniques or women's self-defense, and then there's also the tsurugi or the ken, which is the straight sword. So all 3 of these themes is what he's teaching this year, and they're all kind of intertwined in the way he's teaching. So we're going to look at that tonight, but we're going to start off with Muto Dori, okay? So James will get his sword out. You can give us a little space here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start off here in this ichimonji no kamae, and James is going to cut. I just receive this way, okay? Start, block that and bring him down with an omote. I'm here in ichimonji. James cuts. Okay, I knock his hand here to make the sword come loose, and then take an omote, okay? So I'm here, I receive this, knock the sword away, take this omote, and then I can restrain. With Muto Dori, something that Sensei emphasizes all the time, he's been emphasizing it for many years, and he definitely emphasized it when I was in Japan recently, is that you don't need to evade very far. You feel like you do because a sword is so dangerous, right? And when the blade is coming towards you, it makes you feel like you have to evade. So, for example, this blade here is really thin. If I hold it edge on towards the camera or towards you guys, you almost can't see it, you know. That's how thin it is. So that's the width that you need to evade by. Right? It's very minimal. So if this is swinging through the air and you evade by that tiny width, you're safe. Right? That's hard to get your head around, though, because when we think of a sword, we think of this 3-foot long razor blade, right? So it becomes a little terrifying, right? But we want to work at that distance for the evasion. That's really important. So as James is swinging here at me, you see how I'm not hardly moving at all, right? Okay, once again. So my lead foot, I'm just sinking into my knee and opening up it a little bit, okay? So here, okay? And then I allow this hand to sort of cover, to push it away if I need a little extra distance, right? But I want it to just graze me here, right? I obviously don't want it to graze me so close that I get injured, but I want it that close. Once more. So I'm here. Okay. Then from this distance, as I move across, I'm still very close. Okay. I don't want to try to take the emote out here because that gives him a lot of space to come back at me. Right? If I lose my grip here or something, you know, I'm in trouble. But if I'm in here and I lose my grip, he's kind of stuck. He would have to pull away to try to do something. Okay, so a different angle. So here, when I knock this, you see the position I'm at. Okay. I added that kick. That's not part of the kata, but we're not going to focus on the kata so much tonight as the feeling I got from Hatsumi Sensei. Okay? One more. Yeah, it's good. So here. So I'm knocking this. You might not see it, but I'm controlling his knee here. Okay? See how he lands up against his own blade? Yeah. So that's the kind of things you want to work on with this, keeping that distance minimal. Okay, so when I was in Japan last week, Sensei, I was very fortunate. He painted a scroll for me about this idea, this theme for this year, and the scroll says Muto Buto Nari, and the feeling with the reading of this scroll is someone who fights as if without weapons. And so when you think about this sentiment, it doesn't just mean that I personally have no weapon, but it also means that his weapon is inconsequential to me. Like, it's not dangerous for me. Okay? Now that's very hard to achieve in reality, right? If somebody has a sword or a gun or a knife and they're directing it in your direction, being able to move freely without being threatened by that weapon is challenging. So we're going to talk about a couple of strategies to make that happen here. So James has his sword. So the first thing is, as he's getting ready to swing, right, and he comes in, I can move early. Yeah. I don't know if that was picked up on the camera, but I changed my timing to break his rhythm. Okay. So you can catch your attacker's rhythm in different ways. One way is in his eyes. Another way is just being connected to his intention. And once you've connected to that rhythm, Sensei was talking about connection a lot when I was in Japan. Once you've connected to it, then you can manipulate it. You can break it or change it, right? So I'm here. This is another way to change it, is take a longer timing. Okay, here, right? So that was pretty scary for him because this is dangerous, right? So I went in a little early there. I'm being gentle because this sword is dangerous, right? Once more. So I sense his rhythm, and maybe I draw him out. You see his stance here? Right? So now when I come in, it's changed again. And I can use this to fight another opponent. Yeah. Same final result, though. All right. So let's start exploring that change in the rhythm, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So another thing in Japan that Sensei was talking about as part of this year's theme is fujin no goshinjutsu, which I don't pronounce very well, but it's kunoichi techniques or women's self-defense. In March, when I was in Japan, we had the kunoichi taikai, and there were women from all over the world that came there and learned some of these things from Sensei. So on this last trip, when I was there last week, Sensei was talking about, as a woman, you're generally structurally smaller than a man. like your frame and your musculature is smaller, so you're at a disadvantage. And so when you have that kind of disadvantage and you know it going into the fight, you're going to have to use creative ways to survive, right? So let's try to capture some of that feeling. So when I'm here, right, I can just slip my hand between, okay? And you see what's happened to James there. Once more, not so good over here. So I just allowed James's cut to come in, and my hand slipped between his kote here, okay? And then from this position, I can shift it to an elbow, okay? If I can borrow you. So my hand has just slipped in here. So you see this movement, it doesn't take any effort on my part to disarm him or take the sword, okay? So the idea is I'm not confronting force with force. Soke said, one of the points he made was that if your opponent is bigger than you, try to imagine that they're inflated with air, and then you can bounce them around like a balloon, right? And it was an interesting idea, and I think we can learn something from that concept. So see if you guys can capture that same feeling. If I were a woman or a man trying to learn fujin no goshinjutsu, by the way, Sensei reminded us again that at the end of his life, Takamatsu Sensei, this is what he was teaching to Hatsumi Sensei, was kunoichi techniques, fujin no goshinjutsu, and Sensei said at the time he didn't get it. He's said that it's only been the last few years that he feels like he finally understands it. So I'm doing my best to try to learn from him, but it may be a while before I understand it too. So one of the challenges for a woman or for someone trying to use these principles is to, how do you make someone who's strong and aggressive become light or inconsequential in the space as you're dealing with them? So let's look at that here. So as I receive this here, right, I can inflate up under it and then let it drop. Okay? So Sensei kept saying, let him throw himself, right? Let him do it for you. So here I can receive and I can create pain in a finger that makes James want to get away from me. Okay? So here as I receive, you see how he's coming down here? So I can let that continue to come down and just receive this. So he fell over almost by himself. It wasn't me doing much. All right. So he ends up on the tip of the sword without a lot of effort on my part. Okay. I allow him to go where he wants to go. Allow his strength to lead where it's going to lead. And then I take advantage of it. Okay. See if you guys can capture that feeling. If things aren't complicated enough, we're going to add in the tsurugi. This is another piece of this year's theme, is this kind of Chinese-style straight sword. Sensei in Japan was using this extensively, but like I said, he was weaving all of these things together in every class. So he wasn't just focused on this. Like he would use this for part of the class, but then he would do these other things for part of the class. So it was basically weaving all these ideas together, okay? Including also things like juppo, sessho were part of the theme. So when I'm here with the tsurugi, we start off with the same kind of Muto Dori feeling, right? I'm going to have this down, and James is going to be in Daijōdan there, and then he's going to come in with his cut. So when I come in here, you see how I haven't hardly moved at all. Okay, and I just bring this up the center here. And from here I can slip in and weave this around to sort of trap. Okay? But I'm not using effort. Over here, please. Oh, you made it. So I just stand this up, but I'm parking it on my hip here so that it's braced by my body. Okay? If I don't do that, if I do it with my hand, James can easily move my arm and cut me, right? So just bring this up through the center, and it's braced on my leg. Okay? So now as I move, it's got strength behind it, but it's not muscle strength, it's structural strength. Okay? So I can kick his knee and then bring this down, and I've got some control here. Okay? You're going to hand that to Jesse since he's here?
Sorry,
that's okay. Just cut at me for a second. Yeah. So this is just through the center here. It's braced on my hip. Okay? Then as I come in, I can bring this down to Jesse's leg, and you see how it's knocked him over. All right? I'm not necessarily trying to kill him. That's one important thing to consider with Muto Dori or fujin no goshinjutsu or the tsurugi. You're just moving it through the space, and if it kills or injures, that's part of the consequence, but you're not going for that. As James comes in here, now I can receive with the suka, okay? So it's just here with the suka, okay? And then as I come in, so Jesse, it doesn't look like much, but it has a bigger effect than you would expect, right? So this is just receiving with the suka. You see, it's hard to see this, but the point here is already stabbing. If I want to kill him, it's already there. So I can use his own arm to move that. Okay? And then as he falls away, he might get cut, right? So watch his sword. Nice. So again, using my center line, right, just with the suka here. And then you can bring this up through the center and see where it connects to his body. All right? So that time it went from his hip, up along his stomach, and into his armpit. So it connected to different places on his body. All right? So now as I kind of prop him up here a little bit with this, I'll just release that and bring it down, and you see the result. Right? So that same concept we were using earlier, fujin no goshinjutsu, where you let him throw himself, that's important here as well. Okay? I didn't try to decide where I was going to throw him. I let his body decide that for me. Right? So it's just from this position, I just bring this up the center.